sports broadcasting has become very fragmented, and from a subscriptions point of view, it means if you're a sports fan, you probably need to take a multitude of different services in order to catch all the sport you want to watch. And in our survey, we were perhaps not surprised to see this, but sports fans are the most prolific of subscribers. So
hi everybody, for today's episode of Retention Zone, I'm speaking with Giles Tongue, who spent quite some time understanding the subscribers. Hi Giles.
Hi Carlo, thanks for having me along, great to be here.
Tell me a bit about what you're doing in our industry.
Yeah, sure. So I'm focused on the bundling side. I work at Bango, where we have a product, the digital vending machine, which helps people to enable bundling. So on the one side, we'll have content providers like SVOD trying to bundle and sell their products through third parties, typically telcos, but can be banks or retail. And we're helping to make all of that easy.
But one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you after we met at the ABC on the floor, I would say,
yeah,
is because you came out with a report that caught my attention, right?
Yeah, so we did quite a few studies. We've done 3 really big ones this year, one looking at the US market, another at Latin America, and another at Europe. And within that are various different topics that we specialize on and break out. And one that I thought was particularly interesting for you was the sports VOD, or sports SVOD, as some people call it.
Yes. So what have you uncovered about subscribers in sports VOD and in general? Because that's clearly, one of my focus points, I would say.
Yeah, sure. Well, probably if you are a sports fan, this will be very familiar to you. Sports broadcasting has become very fragmented, and from a subscriptions point of view, it means if you're a sports fan, you probably need to take a multitude of different services in order to catch all the sport you want to watch. And in our survey, we were perhaps not surprised to see this, but sports fans are the most prolific of subscribers. So in our data, it says that 7 average subscriptions versus 4.5 in America is typical for sports fans, and that also means they're spending more. So they're spending $120 instead of 77 is the average.
Yeah, and this is US. This is focused on US market.
Yeah, this is a subset of the US data. We have similar for other markets, but this particular report is on the US situation.
And just to be specific, because then I have people checking the data that I'm showcasing, even if it doesn't come. How the report was done? What is the source of data? What is the methodology behind it?
Yeah, it's a good point. So we work with a PR agency to help with the strategy. So that's one third party, and they're using 3GEM, which is a data collection agency.
Okay.
And the methodology is panels, and there's 5,000 people in the US study, of which a subset, I think it's around 2,500 were sports fans.
And what about other behavior that you see? Yeah, I see that you mentioned Paris Olympic, that we all spent, from my end, we all spent a lot of time watching and testing the different interface, user experiences. There's nothing like the Olympics, which is a great thing. But if you're building digital experiences, it's also very challenging things, especially the discovery part.
Yeah, and I wonder actually if some people were caught out this time around. So our data showed that a lot of people were going to subscribe to a new service just to watch the Olympics, 29% of US subscribers. But if I speak from a personal point of view, in the UK, we're so used to the multi-screen experience from BBC iPlayer, and that was actually somewhat diminished because a lot of the coverage, the kind of full extent range, was over in an SVOD location. So you had to go and subscribe, and that probably caught a lot of people out. And by the time they'd really thought about it, the Olympics is well underway. So perhaps with a bit more pre-promotion next time, if you want the full multi-screen, if you want to watch every biking event, or the gun stuff, whatever, you have to go and buy that service. So even though we saw a lot of people wanting to subscribe for this time round, I think it could be a lot more next time.
And one of the thing that I noticed for the Olympics is that I used to build Olympic experiences and OTT Olympic services for many years. And there's still a challenge today after years that we, improve and improve and improve. I agree. And you talk about the price of loyalty. What do you mean by that?
Well, what we're seeing really is that for sports fans, it's very hard to subscribe to all the services that you want in order to watch the full extent of your sport. So, for example, football, let's say soccer this time. In the UK, you need multiple different services. In the US, it's even worse, and it's well documented that you need so many different services to catch all of your sport. So it's becoming a real problem. 54% of people paying for sports services cannot afford all the subscriptions that they would like. That's 1 in 2. So that's both a missed opportunity and probably a functional problem of the situation we're in at the moment.
So let's talk about frustration.
Yeah. So what we're finding, and this isn't just for sports fans, this is for all fans, is that people can't get all the content that they want. They're paying for subscriptions that they're not using in some cases. They've forgotten how they've subscribed and where they've subscribed, so they don't really know how to manage their subscriptions. So with this huge growing economy of subscriptions that we've created, it's in a kind of evolving state at the moment, and it needs to we need to give the subscribers some help to navigate this.
And what do you think, as I mean, obviously this podcast is called Retention Zone.
Yeah.
Have you kind of found retention advice, best practices as you navigate this, even not directly with, you know, the job that you're doing with Bango, but more in general? Have you seen people, you know, succeeding because they've done certain things?
Yeah, well, what we're certainly finding when it comes to bundling is that bundling has got a big role to play in retention. So, for example, when a telco is offering bundles, and that could be, you know, a mobile operator, ISP, broadband provider, the more services that are bundled, the more services somebody takes, the more loyal they are. So there's a retention benefit. And we saw the Verizon CEO talk about this recently in quarterly reports, that they're seeing bundling as a great retention activity. So it's definitely the case that bundling can lead to retention. And we're also seeing from the content providers themselves, when they are involved in a bundle, they have a stickier customer. So there's definitely a big play here when it comes to retention, loyalty, net promoter score when it comes to bundling.
But does it not put the customer a bit more away from you if you're a content provider? Is there a side effect, or no, really, you get the money, you're happy?
Well, the advantage for the customer, and this is the trend that we're seeing as super bundling, is the ability to buy and manage multiple different types of content in one place is an advantage for the consumer, because it's addressing that problem we just discussed of subscription fragmentation. And the data says that once a subscriber has got the control back, they'll actually spend more and consume more subscriptions. So it's both a growth enabler and a retention enabler. So it's a very strong proposition when thinking on the topic of retention.
But how do you convince a content provider to bundle?
Well, that's a great question.
Quite a negotiation, I think.
No, it's a to me, it's a win-win-win. So the telcos are winning, or the resellers are winning, because they're able to drive up their net promoter score. It's a new revenue stream. Average revenue goes up, so no problem there. The subscriber we've talked about, they're able to manage and get greater flexibility and control over their subscription situation. For the content provider, they're now able to leverage these content hubs that are being created, so they can leverage the reach and the marketing efforts of those huge telco companies to find and acquire more customers.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's fascinating, and we are seeing you know, the big things happening in the US, even if now they've been stopped by the regulators, which could be an issue.
Yeah, we'll see. I think we're talking about venue there. We'll see how that continues. But one interesting side story that's perhaps a parallel one to that is that when we think about these content hubs that are being created, and let's think of Verizon Plus Play. If you haven't seen it, 45 different types of content, from SVOD, productivity, gaming, all managed in one place and provided to the customer. That's actually creating a unique environment where companies that previously would have been absolutely isolated and you know, selling direct to consumer or selling through the App Store, are now coming together and being sold together. And often they're being pre-packed. So you know, buy these two products at a discounted price. or even given away by the operator. So it's creating this amazing environment for collaboration, which I think is probably what's needed to advance the subscription economy, where the options are probably too many. The fragmentation of the content I want is too much. So maybe through bundling, it's a kind of parallel way of achieving the same kind of things that Venue are trying to achieve.
Absolutely fascinating. I think it's a moment where we have to see these things rolling down the market and measure them maybe in 18 months, 2 years, to see if they're sustainable, that people are staying in the bundle or escaping, or who's controlling the bundle. Because at the moment, I think the more natural bundle, as you mentioned, is telco, someone that has, if you want, another interest. So it may not be their primary revenue. Yep. So it's I think for telcos, etc., it's more, okay, how do we get people to pay for our commodities who are not relevant anymore? Content. And maybe the super bundle is the way. I don't know. This is my reading, a bit cynical.
No, you're right. And it's obviously it's driving revenue, but it's also driving differentiation. So it's helping the telcos have a point of difference. So another interesting emerging trend that we're seeing is content provider with content provider bundles, and they're doing it themselves on their own websites. Can you imagine a few years ago that happening? This kind of collaboration is really being driven by market forces, I think. And also, there are companies making it easier to do this kind of bundling.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's definitely a space that I'm super curious to watch in the next coming months and years. So thank you, Giles. It was super interesting. I think I've learned a bit, and I've been curious to deep dive also in your report more in detail, and also have a look at the others. I'll put a link for people that want to get the report from you. Thank you, and thank you, IBC, for having us connect randomly there.
Yeah, thanks, Carlo. I appreciate it. Thanks for bringing me on, and it was great to see you at IBC, and I'm glad we're all home now.